Meg, welcome to Women Seeking Wholeness.
Cherie, thank you for having me. I've been looking forward to seeing you again and spending time with you.
I loved being on your podcast. I can't believe it was a year and a half ago. I
It was a
mean,
long time ago.
wow, look
Yeah,
at everything that's happened on the earth since then.
exactly. Exactly.
Well, I know that you're in the zone of helping people who help people. I mean, you've got this whole amazing clinical background and clinical psychology, social work, but then you're now helping people or master level coaches through university. And as you and I were just kind of catching up before we started recording, I was really struck by a couple of things you said about how coaching, well, I think coaching for women, if they want to go in and become a coach, can be tremendously valuable because it allows us to use our intuition and it allows us to kind of show up in a way where we don't need to be professional necessarily, although the skill set is everything.
Absolutely.
So, but I was struck how you said that coaching isn't like about, what did you say? It's not like about telling them what to do.
Right.
What did you say? It's more
So
about.
I was saying that I've just started a whole new cohort, and every time that I start a new class through the university of brand new people coming into coaching for the very first time, the very first thing that we talk about is what coaching really is versus what people think it is, because different companies call coaching different things many times, like having managerial conversations with people or putting them on a performance improvement plan is called coaching. There's many different things that are called coaching. So the fun is that when I say, coaching is a process of self-determined, self-directed change and helping people zero in on what is that change that they really want. And your job as the coach is not to fix it. It's not to know. It's not to drag them from point A to point B and get them to see the way you see it. It's like, oh, that's what coaching is. And when over the many years that I've been teaching and working with coaches to build their skill sets and to really embrace what coaching is, this is what I hear when people really own it. It is such a relief. It is such a joy to allow other people to tap into their own brilliance, and a weight lifts off my shoulders that I don't have to fix it for them.
You don't have to carry that.
Exactly. And when we really allow people and we partner with them to do that, it's not like we sent them adrift on their own. They're hiring a coach for a reason.
Well, you're holding space for them to access their own information.
And those solutions that those people come up with for themselves are that much more powerful and that much more settled into who they are as a being and who they want to be, because it's their solution for themselves.
Sure.
It's not, here, Cherie, let me fix it for you.
Right. And we don't actually, we can't know that. Exactly. You might get an intuitive hit on someone and kind of guide or direct them to a certain, resource.
Or offer it. Yeah.
Yeah. So it reminded me too of like, isn't that kind of what parenting is? Exactly. I mean, it's more about being a coach versus do this, do that. I mean, although there are seasons where you do sort of have to, I guess
some limits and give boundaries.
Yeah, like behaviors are expected in certain situations. Yeah. But when your children are at a certain point where, they can learn how to go within, and this is what I'm working on with my younger kids. My older kids that are all out of the house now and in college. Oh,
I know my really baby just moved into his own apartment. So he just signed the lease and moved out. He's in his own apartment.
Oh, isn't that so like, so anyway, but I feel like my older kids are really, empathic and they are able to access their own knowing. Like all three of them in their, mid to late teens are kind of like, well, Mom, just because you believe that religiously or spiritually doesn't mean that so it was hard to chew on for a bit, but I'm like, I trained them to be truth seekers. I trained them to go within. Fast forward 12 years, second set of kids, and they have different biology. They're both adopted and they have different birth parents, and Eli and Emma. And so their way of being a somatic being in the world and being a soul in the world and experience, I mean, I know they're still young, but they don't have the same, they're very physical. they're very experiential and visceral. And
Mhm.
as opposed to my other kids were very much more sensitive. It seemed like they were
Yeah.
able to access going within. So I'm like, this is a different way of parenting for me. Like, I need help.
Yeah, right.
You know,
Because this isn't
like,
natural. This isn't my natural state. So
yeah.
how do I maybe hold the space for them and yet give them the guidance and the guardrails that they need?
Yes. So, and this kind of segues perfectly into sort of our topic around not knowing.
Yes.
Like you and I both have all this career in helping people, and we both have podcasts. We write different things, but ultimately, there's so much we cannot know.
Right. And there's
And,
power in that knowing,
and
even if it
that's yeah,
makes
and
us
that's
feel
what I want to talk
vulnerable.
about. How is
Yeah.
that powerful? How Because for me, for so long, and I get it logically, like the mystery and there's power in that. But I was programmed from a very young age, as we all are culturally, I think,
Mm-hmm.
and in religion and in some of our family systems and through academia, especially,
Mm-hmm.
that this is the plan. And this is what will happen if this happen. If you don't do
Right.
this, here's what will happen. Like a very predetermined set of expectations and outcomes, and even like afterlife stuff, and even
Mm-hmm.
spiritual stuff. And it's like, oh, just trust us. We know. Like this is the plan, and this is what's going to happen. And so, yeah. So for so many years, I relied on other people's knowing
Mm-hmm.
that they, not that they were right or wrong, it was just their knowing, and I relied on it.
Right.
And then I reached a certain age where I'm like, wait a minute, that that actually doesn't, parts of those things they're saying don't resonate with me.
Right.
And it was profoundly both empowering and liberating, and also terrifying.
I was going to say, talk about a shaky ground all of a sudden, right?
Yeah. So explain how there is power in not knowing.
So I love the way that you sort of explored that and looked at your journey through that. And I agree with you 100% that our claim to fame is often the knowledge that we've acquired and the paths that we've walked, and sort of sharing that expertise. If we're a leader in an organization, and women are growing in leadership in organization, and yay for that, and
Yay,
let's
this
hope
is
that
our
that
era.
kind of,
This is our
that's
time.
right, let's continue.
Yeah.
And yet, when we realize that yes, we have that experience and we have those resources within us, but that there's also resources in every human being that we touch and that we engage with. And when we're able to walk into those situations more in a place of wonder and curiosity
Mm.
about what is being offered by others, if we use that foot before we put the foot forward of knowing, what might we gain? What might we, and gain in the way of connection, gain in the way of respect, and mutual sort of sharing, because we will have that opportunity to put our knowing forward and to put our experience when appropriate, when it adds and grows. Yet, and the leaders that I work with, I'll say to them, what would happen if you went in with some curiosity and questions before you went in with telling and knowing? And what will that do for your leadership? What will that do for the empowerment of the people that with whom you work?
Mm-hmm.
What does that ultimately do for the wealth of information that comes from everyone? So there is power in being in that place of wonder and curiosity before we just know what we know. Well, there are some things that we know what we know, but isn't it amazing when somebody offers something that we never thought of that angle, or we never really looked at it from that perspective?
And I believe in synchronicities that if our eyes are truly open, synchronicities always at play. And the person in front of you, there's no accident. I don't care
Right.
if you're in the grocery store, at the gas station, or it's your kid's school, wherever you are.
Right.
Um, when somebody's being interacts with your being on a
Mhm.
path, or, even albeit briefly, there's always something each can exchange with each other for their next level of
Mhm.
learning and growth. And it usually comes cloaked, this person often, in
Yes.
a form that you would maybe judge or say, oh, I've got that person figured out. I know
Mhm.
that type. I know that archetype. I know
Right.
who they are. They can't possibly, you know, we can't possibly like connect here.
Right. There's nothing that I can learn from that person
Yeah.
and actually while we were talking about this story popped into my head, and I'm wondering if it would be helpful maybe to this audience in particular, because you have so many powerful women that listen. And
Mm-hmm.
I was thinking about this new leader that I worked with a couple of years ago, and she, and I think that many of us fall into this trap. She was trying to prove herself in the organization, right? She wanted to move up in the organization, and they brought in an executive coach to work with her to help her kind of smooth out some of the rough edges, get to that place. And I think that she was so eager to share what she knew that she was alienating people. She was
Mm.
going into meetings with people a layer or two above her, and just so, because she was this beautiful person and beautiful, she had so many talents to bring forward, but it was that guardrail thing that she didn't have down pat. She was, just so eager to prove.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
think when we get in that place that we're just so eager to show what we know and and share
Mm-hmm.
it, that we don't listen to the wisdom around us as well.
Yeah.
So
That's,
yeah.
yeah.
So
Yeah. And,
her
and we
whole
get, it was like,
lesson, yeah,
we're passionate and we're
so
like, I
passionate.
know I can help. I know I can step in
Right.
here and share what I know.
And yet that might cut our nose to spite our face, right?
Mm.
So our work together was really helping her open her curiosity, open to listen before she
Mhm.
shared, to be able
Mhm.
to really embrace each situation that she was in as a learner, as
Mhm.
well as somebody who is bringing value. And what that ended up doing for her was, she learned, she grew. I mean, it was just so exciting to see her blossom. And over the years, she's kept me posted. She's moved up the organization through her curiosity. But this is the thing that just makes me smile so much. So maybe a year after we worked together, I don't know, 6 months, a year, I don't know. Time is whatever.
I know, me
But
too. I'm like, was it a month ago or a year
yeah,
ago? I can't remember.
exactly, exactly. So I get this package in the mail and I was all intrigued. What's this? It was a coffee mug from her with this beautiful thank you note. And the coffee mug said, "Stay curious." It's
Oh.
and she said that message and that curiosity has helped me grow in my relationships.
Mm.
It's helped me grow in the organization, and it's helped me just grow as a person. That power of not always having to have the answer and knowing, but taking in everyone's knowledge and then kind of moving forward
Yeah,
with that. So I
moving
just
that.
wanted to share that.
No, that's beautiful. And like that kind of goes back to, kids and parenting and the approach, right?
Yeah.
Children really are our teachers. We think we're there to tell them what to do and show them the things and their way. But they actually, especially I would have to say, because my two younger kids came along later in life. Emma was born when I was 45. Eli was born when I was 43. Um, Play and wonder and that
Yes.
curiosity you're talking about. That's what they
Yes.
model. They model an open heart. They model, and then when your kids, when my kids started, the older kids started getting into their teen years, and it's like, oh, they're that typical teenager. And it's like, no, listen to them. Listen
Yes.
to their angst. Listen to why it's
Yes.
difficult for them to sit in this particular lesson at church. Listen to what they're saying about inclusivity.
Mhm.
Listen to what they're saying about what's happening to the earth and marginalization. And I have to say that my older kids, Noah, Savannah, Sawyer, who are now 20, 22, and 24, that they have been very instrumental in my own process of awakening because, we were born into a certain system that was dictated
Right.
to us. I followed the system. I followed all the mores and social
Mhm.
expectations and um, everything. And I passed that down to them. And they didn't like adhere to the program.
Right.
Uh,
They're willing to kind of think, but there
yeah.
might be something else. And what really resonates with me? And my children are 23 and 26, and it's the same kind of thing.
Hmm. Yeah, I do really feel that this now I don't know, the younger kids, they have a whole other warrior like thing going on. I don't know if it's their generation is here to do some real physical, I think community building and all kinds of
Mhm.
things that when systems crumble. But this bridge, these late millennial Gen Zers, they are very acutely um, full of tolerance and love and sensitive to those who are in the margins. And
You're actually kind of making me tear up because it's so true. I mean, it's so powerful.
yeah,
So if I start weeping on your
it's
podcast, you'll
okay.
know
I
why.
make everyone cry. It's kind of a thing, and I cry too. But yeah, I mean, but if we stay as I'm Gen X, you're probably Gen X. Like if we stay
Mhm.
in curiosity to what their souls are here to reveal and
Right.
lead into this new era of the earth, because we're in it.
Right.
We're in it.
We're in it. We
Um,
can't pretend like we're not.
yes, yes. So let's talk about deep listening because I think
Mhm.
that's really part, and I know you really teach this
Yes.
process of what, when you're actually really deeply listening, what it can reveal.
Right. So I wanted to share a story about my mom in this to just give an example of the power of deep listening. I'm one of 9 children. My mom is this amazing matriarch and did an amazing job, sort of um, caretaking my dad through his dementia and through his death. And then she was just a goer and blower. She bought herself a little Mini Cooper. She zipped around Michigan, seeing where where most of my siblings live, kind of visiting people. But about 3 years ago, right before Christmas, my mom had a major stroke, and it impacted her ability to speak. And my mom is a talker. I mean, that was her
Mm,
joy and her connection and talking and sharing stories. And she just, so this was probably more than even the physical, because she's paralyzed on half of her body, but
mm,
that loss of speech has been an incredibly huge blow to who she is as a person. And
mm,
so 3 years ago, right before Christmas, my I'm of the youngest, so I'm the youngest girl, and the youngest boy is 2 years younger than me. He lives in Vegas. We decided we're going to go see mom. This might be our last visit with mom. We
mm,
didn't know what was happening from the stroke. We met in Detroit and drove up north to where my mom lives, to the hospital. And during those days that we were there, what we saw was this desire, everyone's desire to help mom, to rescue mom, to put words in her mouth,
mm.
to figure
Sort of
things out for her.
infantilizing her, right? Like,
Yes,
mm,
yes. And what I saw was her pain increase and her frustration increase. And she would just shut down. And and during the days when we were at the hospital, my sister happened to be a doctor at the hospital, because otherwise I think we would have been thrown out. There were so many of us there, and we were just it was intense. At one point, just before we left, my brother and I went to the hospital in the evening and asked everybody else not to be there, that we were going to be flying back out, and we really wanted to spend time with my mom. And um, so I just want to kind of set the scene. We're in the hospital room. Mom had her own room. We had the lights very low because the stroke increased her light sensitivity as well. So we were in this dark hospital room with just some under the door lighting kind of things happening. And the three of us were sort of in a triangle, knee to knee, mom in her wheelchair, and Patrick and I just pulled up, and we just slowed down, and we just want, because mom needed to share a message with us. We knew we were leaving. It might be the very last time. We didn't know what my mom's long-term results were going to be. And she wanted so badly to share with us. So there's a couple things just that are interesting about a stroke victim that were interesting to me. Mom's speech was impaired, but her ability to sing wasn't.
Oh.
So we sang "Oh Holy Night" and "Silent Night," and just different. We sang together and just sort of sunk into this space of just being with one another and just feeling one another's hearts without needing to fix or to, but I knew, and Patrick knew, that mom wanted to share something with us. But this is what that deep being, maybe even more than just deep listening, just being with one another brought up in that space of, and we cried while we sang, and we held hands, and then I said, Mom, I think there's something that you want to share with us. And she nodded that yes, there was. And we just gave her silence, and we gave her space, and we gave her love. We just stayed there with her. And this is what happened. My mom's speech began to flow. Wow. She began to, now, yeah, she was still speak, but she was able to put, whereas she couldn't even get one word out, 2 and 3 words came out together. We held space. We just listened. And what she wanted to do was say goodbye to us. She didn't want to hear "you're going to be okay" and things are going to, she wanted to be able to tell us what each of us meant to her, and that she was ready to go. And she just wanted to say, she knew we were leaving, and she thought that it was going to be the last time that we ever saw each other. And so I guess my point here is, it was amazing to see what belief in the other person versus needing to rescue or solve it for, what that, just giving that space and the belief and the time. So sometimes the people that we're engaging with, they just need time. They need silence. There's an incredible value in silence as well. And it was like giving permission to just open the spirit, open the time. There was no, it was an incredibly emotional time. I mean, thinking about it now, it was, Patrick and I were both basket cases by the time we left, but it was exactly, and such peace, even though we were emotional and this is what I saw in my mom's face. I saw peace, that she was able to actually express what she needed to express to us, and we didn't try to fix it or change, like, "Oh no, Mom, you don't need to say goodbye to us." If that's what she needed, that's what she needed. Now it's been 3 years and my mom is still with us on this earth, and but at that moment, that's not what she needed to, what she needed to hear was, and the power of the deep listening and being able to, because also in that moment, even though there were only a few words that she was sharing, because I was deeply listening to what she was expressing, the tone, the meaning behind her, all of it was able to come together. Watching her face, listening to her tone, hearing what she was able to say. Then when I said to her, "I think you're trying to say goodbye to us," she said, "Yes." And it just, when she said yes, and it just flowed from her, then her words flowed that much better. So there's an incredible power in not trying to rescue or resolve, and to holding space for somebody else.
Yes, that's such a beautiful story. Thank you for sharing that. And as I was listening to you, I was thinking, there's a quote I love, is that people will perform to the level of your belief in them.
Yes.
So if we are just enabling people with answers and placating, like you were saying with your mom, like, it's going to be okay, people can see through that. But I think too, like, if we're in a position, let's just say, because I do coaching as well as you do, and it's like, as a coach, if I'm just handing them, or if they sense, I should say, if they sense that I don't believe in their ability to do it,
Yes.
then I will be enabling them. They will have a reliance on me to be the one to strategize their life.
And they won't have the belief that they can really do that themselves.
Right.
So if we go back to
So
our
it's
whole
like, if
thing
she
about
doesn't
kids,
believe in me,
yes,
then I guess the world doesn't believe
believe in
in
me.
me. So then they
And I
become,
don't believe in me.
right. And that's the deeper tragedy to that. It sets up that dynamic. And I think we do this in parenting unknowingly.
I was going to say, I think this is what a rescuing parent does. You know, it's okay, honey, I'll make your bed because I can make it better than you. Or, you know, it's, you know, rushing in that love, that helicopter parent. I love you and I want everything to be, but really the underlying message that we're unfortunately giving is, I got this because I can do it better, or you don't have this. And I think that we need to kind of let our kids struggle through some of that and learn and grow, because that's how we learned and grew.
Yeah, exactly. Yes. And I came from a large family as well. I'm second of 7 children. And you know, there was something special about, you know, like, if I want it, I have to create it, because there's not money. And so if I want something, I have to figure out how to create that. And my mom especially was very good at helping us be resourceful or finding our own resources. It's like, I trust you, you're smart. You've got a good head on your shoulders. You got a good heart. So why don't you go figure it out? You know, and well, I want to talk about the ABCs of understanding self, because I think that this, I know you teach this too. And I think this is a good place to kind of insert this piece of self. Like, how do you get somebody to make that bridge from like being self-directed and self-determined and kind of accessing their own answers, understanding themselves? So yeah, you have an ABC acronym around that. So
I do. So it's hopefully empowering. It is certainly something I teach to coaches. It's all about sort of cognitive behavioral kind of philosophy, but many times, and I saw this so often when I was a therapist prior to becoming a coach, and I certainly see it in my coaching, is when something happens in our life, we feel like it happens to us, or that it is that we are a victim to whatever has occurred. And so it's the concept, the ABCs are the concept that an activating event, which is the A, and a situation that occurs, anything in our life that happens is,
you could say like a trigger maybe, or just
a trigger,
something outside that happens.
A boss calls you into their office, or you get fired from your job, or 9/11 was an activating event, and we're just past our 20-year anniversary of that horrendous event. But the actual event in and of itself is a neutral event. Even whatever happens is an actual, like the actual event was that planes were hijacked and flew into the towers and into the Pentagon. That's the actual event. It's our evaluation. It's the B, the beliefs that we place on a situation that actually end up creating the consequences, which is our feelings and our behaviors around that. So the empowering aspect, now that doesn't mean that terrible things don't happen. That's not what I am saying about this at all. It's that the understanding ourselves is that where that power comes in is in our beliefs, and in understanding that our beliefs they come from our experiences and the way that we were raised. And I mean, so many things kind of go into creating those automatic beliefs that we have. And this is the whole, that we have the power to determine, do those beliefs work for me now? Or are they things that I need to potentially adjust? So it might be that we've always believed that something wasn't going to work, or that it was that we were targeted, or that we're being picked on, or whatever. And then we can say, well, even if that's potentially the case, that this person doesn't like me, or that how I respond, how I choose to believe. So instead of believing that I'm bad, or that I'm less than because this other person is engaging with me in a way that I don't like. I might determine instead, well, that's their issue. And I come with talents and resources, and I'm going to use those to my best ability, regardless of the way that I'm engaging with this other, or this other person is engaging with me. It's, does the belief help us move forward in the way that we want to? And if it doesn't, how can we potentially shift that belief in a way? So it might even be that, yes, I've experienced this terrible loss of a job, or loss of a spouse, or loss of a child, and I want to grieve and own that. And yet, what do I want to do moving forward? How do I want to engage? How do I want to, it's that whole concept of parents who have lost a child to violence, who then create nonprofit organizations to help educate or to help change things. It's just not that but that they're taking their grief and they're determining,
they're just redirecting it or reframing it so that
into a
it has a
different
positive
consequence of that. Yeah.
That's really powerful. I also was thinking, I teach the science of emotion, and it reminds me, this, you have an activating event, which, cultivates some kind of a belief, and based on that belief, you have a consequence. And in the emotional science, it's very similar in terms of the physiology, like the beliefs actually activate chemicals. That could be another C there with your consequence, that we literally, like, our emotions have a charge. So if we form a belief or a perception, I've heard perception guides biology. So it's the glasses we're looking at life with. When that activating event happens, you could have two people that are experiencing the exact same activating event, and one person forms a completely opposite polar belief as the other person. And it's interesting. There's also like emotional resilience, and some people just, I don't want to say Debbie Downer, because that sounds like such a judgment, but we all have reactions to things based on the perceptions that we hold. And so for me, I like to look at, what does that mean to you?
Right.
Because that's when you form that belief, because when you were looking at that thing, you perceived it a certain way that person that's positive didn't.
Right. But because our beliefs often run under the radar, they're automatic.
They're subconscious.
We go right from the activating event to the consequences.
Yes.
This is the way I feel. This is the way I'm responding to that. So this made me feel this way. And it's the power, like you said, Cherie, is when we can help somebody say, there was a belief that was attached to that probably happened in a millisecond. And it was the evaluation that you created. So when we can back into that and say, let's explore those automatic thoughts that happened, that created that kind of response. I shared with you before the show, one of my favorite quotes from Dr. David Burns is, you feel the way you do right now because of the thoughts that you're thinking right now. So what power that is. So it's like, oh, well, what are the thoughts that are triggering the way that I feel and the way that I'm responding to this particular situation? And that is because we all have power over the paradigm that we put on things. But I don't think that we always believe that we do. So for those people who kind of live in that black cloud state, have sort of given that power away of their emotion, and that's not, to be judgmental, but it's like, let's help you own that power again. Because when we can own the power of, how do I want to yes, I want to mourn and grieve and all those things. And yet, how do I want to move forward with this? And what's my belief about my ability to move forward with this? That's where the power is. And that's where the shift can happen.
Yes. Awesome. Yes. And, for all of the tools that are out there and whatever, it really just comes down to a choice, making a choice to be conscious.
Yes.
So I always tell people, in fact, I just taught a short presentation on this last week to a group of people, like when you are confronted with something, whether it's an uncomfortable circumstance or an emotion that just flared up, that's just like you said, just right from the subconscious, there it is. The vast majority of our beliefs are subconscious. Well, let's just say something comes up, you have two choices. Number one, you can go completely unconscious, let the emotion ride through you, react, go to the worst case scenario. Like you can
Right.
go completely unconscious, and that's okay.
Mm.
The second is that you can go conscious, and you can almost kind of like become the presence behind it, and like look at it, observe it. And you talk about deep listening, even listening to it. What
Right.
needs to be heard? Why am I so triggered? What is this showing me?
Yeah, because there
What is it
is
revealing?
information that's important to listen to.
Yes,
If we don't listen to it, we can't make a choice about whether it's working for us anymore or not.
exactly. And it wouldn't have even come up unless your body's intelligence knew you were ready
Right.
to confront it.
Right.
So yeah, so either way, those two choices, you can go unconscious or conscious. Either way, you're going to learn powerfully. Even the victim mentality that you're talking
Right.
about, there's powerful learning there, because when they actually do wake up
Right.
and they realize, oh my goodness, it's me. I'm creating everything. Not to say that, there's not heinous crimes
No, I
that
get
are,
that.
but ultimately it's how we're reacting and getting re-victimized from the things that
Right.
happen to us or that are out of our control, that we have power to contain, that we have power to look at. And I think just giving people their permission is like, no, you're bigger than this. Your soul is
Right.
vast. You're bigger than this thing happening to you or this event, like COVID.
Yeah. Yeah.
COVID is one of those things where it's like, where's this even going? Like you know, um, lots of polarity happening, lots of questioning, lots of conspiracy, lots of
Lots of separation, lots of
yes,
there's and
divisiveness.
yet there's also this underlying layer of all these stories of silver linings and growth and joy. It's so interesting, but it's once again like, where is people's attention going? And there is such a chasm being off. It's scary, and on the other hand, there's some beautiful stories of of overcoming and survival and tapping into the very best that we can be. I just
Mm-hmm.
wish that was, I shouldn't just wish. I would figure out how we can help, enlighten and bring that forward, and hopefully have it. I always feel like it's a battle right now. It's
Yeah.
a battle of light and dark.
Yeah. And I think you're right. It's what you're focusing on. It's where you're
Mhm.
choosing to place your attention. Again, that comes to choice. You
Right.
know, you can watch the news and go completely unconscious.
Right.
And it's kind of how what I was talking about before, like there's a set of programs that were handed to us from birth,
Mhm.
and it can serve us for a time. And then we get to go conscious, and we get to be the presence behind those beliefs, those perceptions, those programs, and ask, the deeper questions. And
Mhm.
so yeah, listening to yourself, not like we were talking about listening to others, but really it's just this beautiful act of listening to yourself,
Right.
deeply listening to your emotions. And wow, okay, well, this has been amazing. I love your energy. You just have such a positivity and joy about you, and it's just a pleasure. It's lovely to have this interaction, because you just naturally, do people tell you that you just kind of naturally lift them up?
Yeah, they do. And I would say ditto right back to you. I mean, what a beautiful time to spend with you exploring these really important topics, but just, getting in that synergy and energy with another person who has that same desire to, like, come on, let's just look at what we already have. It's like right there. It's right there. So
Yeah.
let's reach out and grab it.
Yes. Well, thank you so much. And how can people find you online, Meg? What you're all
So
about?
we can I'm my show is the Star Coach Show. So please feel free to join me there. And I'm on Instagram as Meg Rentschler. And I just am available to answer questions or to be whatever, but I just thank you for the time to be able to be here with you.
It was my pleasure.